You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. The Women's Musical Club of Winnipeg McLellan competition for solo performance finals take place tomorrow. 3 young artists sharing their superb talents and vying for a total purse of $20,000 in prize monies perform with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra at Jubilee Place. In the lead up to the final round, we've been inviting you to meet the McLellan finalists, and this morning we're joined by the last of them, soprano Christina Thanisch-Smith. Welcome back to Classic 107, Christina.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's great to have you here. You've been no stranger over the years. We've connected over Zoom. You've been in this studio, in the old studio, as we've followed along, as you've established your voice as a young artist in the Canadian singing scene. Most recently, you made the move to Calgary as a first-year McPhee artist. Tell us a little bit about how that's been going thus far.
You know what? It's actually been really fun. And I think I was in Montreal prior to this past fall, and the prairie girl in me was so happy to be returned to the prairies. I mean, Calgary is like just at the edge of the prairies, but still like those wide open skies. It was a breath of fresh air in a way. And it makes me realize how much of a prairie girl I still am. It doesn't matter how far you go away from home or for how long you are always going to have those prairie roots. So Calgary's been great so far. It's been a really full season. I've enjoyed it a lot. I think when you go into these young artist programs, if you're fortunate enough to do so, the first year can feel a bit like a whirlwind because you learn all the things about the professional environment that maybe you didn't learn in school in the more academic settings. And so I have tried to be as much of a sponge as I can and just soak it all in, and getting to watch the professional artists and actually like perform with them in certain productions has been super cool, and I've learned a ton.
You also got to make a main stage debut with Calgary Opera.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was really cool.
Tell us about what you sang and how was it?
Yeah, so my main stage debut happened this past February in Calgary Opera's production of L'Elisir d'Amore, or The Elixir of Love by Donizetti. I sang the role of Gianetta, which can sometimes be a bit of a bit role, but the director that we had, Pablo Maritano, he and I together created this great storyline and character arc for Gianetta. She ended up being on stage way more than sometimes they are. And it was great to sing alongside some really incredible singers that were in the principal roles. And so I had a blast. It was awesome. So
glad to hear it. So just to catch listeners up, since completing your bachelor's at the U of M, you've done a master's at McGill, you're an alumna of Toronto Summer Music Festival, the Franz Schubert Institute, the Stratford Summer Music Academy, Opera Nova, and more. I know this is a really big question, Christina, and probably one that's going to be tough to answer succinctly, but how do you feel like you've grown as an artist, especially in the past couple of years since maybe Winnipeg last had the chance to see you sing?
Yeah, we're with the big questions this morning, Simon.
Yeah, why
Thank
not?
you.
It's, what time is it? 8:15. Yeah,
yes.
We're all ready to go with big questions.
How have I grown into the artist I am? I think for me, a lot of that has happened in the last year. I think when you're in a school environment, which is so important and necessary, and we have to go through the exams and the courses and the lessons, I think you start developing a sense of yourself. But for me, it was really this past summer attending the Franz Schubert Institute in Baden-Baden, Austria. Several Winnipeggers have done the program, and a lot of McGill alum. And I found 5 weeks of 12-hour days of just German lead. And I mean, I am German, so I'm going to love it, of course. But I think that, to me, was the biggest moment where you are just so immersed in the art that it becomes part of you. And then when you leave the program and you start using and remembering so many of the things that you did, that it stays with you. And I think I've been fortunate to do a lot of programs, but this one in particular, it's so fully immersive. You are in the town that like Beethoven and Schubert themselves composed in. I took a train ride out to one of the bigger graveyards in Vienna one afternoon and saw Schubert's grave and Brahms's grave, Zemlinsky, Schoenberg. It was just, you are fully with the greats. And it was a life-changing summer for me. Came back home and started at Calgary within the month. And I realized just how changed I was after that program. So any singers listening out there, or pianists, because you go as a duo, collaborative pianist as well, couldn't recommend it more. The French Schubert Institute in Vienna, or outside of Vienna, like a life-changing program for me.
Well, so excited to see where you're at and your artistry on display in this final round of the McLellan competition for solo performance. Let's chat a little bit about what you're singing, because unlike the other finalists, you won't be performing one work, but instead a selection of pieces. How did you go about choosing the rep?
You know, it's one of those things that I always thought that singers would be at a disadvantage by the fact that we can't just, say, oh, I'm going to do this 20-minute concerto or whatever by one composer, because it can be very overwhelming to pick repertoire as a singer. For those listening, singers typically, like, our pieces are shorter, so we do more of them to fill the 20 to 30-minute slot that we have. And so I went with some advice from coaches, some rep that I already knew. Actually, 3 of the pieces are brand new to me that I'm singing on the final program. And you go with a bit of variety. For singers, we're expected to sing in so many languages, fast pieces, slow pieces. And so you try and figure out a bit of strategicness, because if I were to sing all fast pieces for 25 minutes, I won't survive. So you go through that, you kind of check off, make sure you have a bit of everything in terms of variety, and you go from there. So yeah, my program, I'm excited for it. A little nervous just because some of the pieces are definitely newer than others, but you know what? It just adds to the excitement.
I was just looking through the program. You mentioned languages, Italian, English, German, French, and Latin, though there isn't a lot of Latin. It's just Alleluia.
Alleluia.
So
a lot of times.
A lot of times. A little bit of Mozart from the Exultate Jubilate. But you're also really running the gamut. I mean, in terms of just where you're at musically, from the classical right through the mid-20th century or thereabouts. What do you hope to, I guess, showcase through these selections?
I think the biggest thing that I wanted to showcase is the fact that singers, we are expected to be able to sing all the styles. And since I wasn't just going to be able to pick one composer and sing all of that, I figured we may as well really go with it 110%. And I think also the opportunity to sing a solo set with orchestra, I want to try it all.
Yeah.
I want to, like, even in the rehearsals yesterday that we had, hearing the different colors and abilities that the orchestra can do too, it was super inspiring and going like, yeah, this is why we're doing this. This is why we're going from Mozart to Strauss. And yeah, there's going to be some Bellini in there, some Haydn. Like, it's just, it was a lot of fun yesterday. I'm excited.
Speaking of orchestras, you've performed with Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra before. You did some Messiah singing.
Sure did.
You must be so looking forward to being back with the orchestra. How are you feeling about it?
I really love it. I always, and I'm not the only one with this opinion, Winnipeggers will agree, I've always thought that the WSO was an incredible orchestra, and I've been able to sing with other orchestras, and I still have the same opinion that I do, that the WSO is really top class. And it is a very humbling experience for me to sing with them, because I've been sitting in the audience for over half my life watching these musicians perform, and then to be beside some of them yesterday in rehearsal is just, like, to me, it feels like a full circle moment, but in the best way. And it was like I was just embraced fully by them yesterday in rehearsals, and it was a lovely return, if you could say. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So as I mentioned right at the start of this interview, you've been a regular guest here on Classic 107. You've also been a beneficiary over the years from the support of the Women's Musical Club. What does it mean to you to be a McLellan finalist?
So much. So much. I cannot go without saying how appreciative I am for the Women's Musical Club of Winnipeg. They have funded me through a lot of different things that I have done. And I think, too, especially for Winnipeggers, so many of us, especially in the early parts of our careers in the classical music scene, we do leave. It is just the matter of fact. We go wherever life takes us, school-wise, professionally. But every time that we do come back, we are greeted with such warmth and praise. And it just, again, going back to the whole family aspect of this city, it really feels like we are supported and nurtured in a way that when you're living in a city that you're not from, you don't always get. And the Women's Musical Club of Winnipeg, it's lovely. Like, I know the ladies by first name, and it's just, you really do feel like you are a part of their love for music. And it's really special.
Well, wishing you great success tomorrow, Christina. And I want to thank you for joining me this morning on Morning Light. Great seeing you.
Thanks. It's good to see you too.
Tomorrow, the WMC McLellan competition for solo performance with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra and 3 finalists takes place. 7:30 p.m., Jubilee Place. That's at MBCI. Christina Thanisch-Smith, soprano, the last of the McLellan finalists, joining me in studio. Tickets are available for $40, though there are discounted tickets available for those under 30 and those under 12, if any happen to be listening. More details up at classic107.com under the events tab or WMCWPG.ca.